Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're going to answer the question, am I just hate reading? A year ago, I made a video called Why I Hate Everything I Read, Let Me Explain, and I did this in response, and in order to have me a place to redirect these comments that I get in an enormous amount that say, do you even like anything you read? You can go watch it if you want, but today's video is a little different. It's here to address another question that is similar but also distinct enough that I think it needs its own video, and also gives me the opportunity to do like a jump off video and talk about hate reading as a concept. So in the previous video, I discussed why people assume that I hate everything that I read, where this incorrect perception comes from, which is their YouTube algorithm. And this time I'm going to explain in depth how I choose my reads and why, and explain what this looks like with YouTube being my job, show you my analytics, which I think some of you might be interested in, and what YouTube looks like on the creator side. Like there's a whole separate app for creator YouTube than there is for watcher YouTube. And I want to show you like how YouTube talks to me as a content creator, as someone whose full-time job is to create content on YouTube. So I think some of you might find that aspect interesting, and then some of you might find it to be enlightening on like why I do things the way I do things here. So as I said, I often get the do you like anything you read comments again and again and again and again and again. But another one that has popped up fairly frequently recently, both in my videos and on my Goodreads review, I've started getting comments asking how I choose the books that I review here and on Goodreads. So one of the comments that I got was on a negative review that I put up on Goodreads. I think all I said was boo, tomato, 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 if I remember correctly. I'm genuinely curious if you go into these super hyped books expecting to like them and are disappointed, or if you're just hate reading them. And another one I got was, hi Rachel, I have a question for you. So the first part's sort of irrelevant. It's the last part I want to focus on. What would a book need to have for you to rate it a 4 or 5 stars? What are you looking for when you read a book? How do you go about choosing the books you read? I'm going to do a separate video, hopefully it'll be up next week, on the morality or lack of morality and ethics, I guess, assigned to the concept of hate reading. Or if we're defining hate reading as like the most like bare bones idea of what hate reading is, reading a book on purpose that you know or you assume you will dislike because you've heard some stuff about it, or you've read the author previously and didn't like their other stuff. Because I think the reason I'm getting comments like this, how are you picking what you're reading? Are you just hate reading? Is rooted in thinking that I, on purpose, only read stuff that I dislike in order to get views or likes or get paid. And in fact, I'll talk about this in the next video, but I got a comment where on a video I had said that reviewing is neutral, like reviews are neutral unless they're bigoted. A negative review, a positive review is a neutral action. And some guy showed up and got very mad at me and said, you lost me at both negative and positive reviews are neutral. No, a neutral review is neutral. Is it probably boring, academic, and impersonal? Yes. Will it gain traction and give you clicks? No. Will it inform people of the quality of writing and other technical aspects? Yes. It's not what most people do because it will not give you clicks. I mean, looking at your channel, none of the thumbnails and video titles show any other reviews than negative. You just look butthurt here because you are being called out for doing exactly that, using negative reviews to get attention and earn money. So I'm going to talk about that idea because that's definitely rooted in thinking that it is immoral to make money off of doing any negative reviews, but it is moral to make money off of positive reviews, and only a positive review is neutral. I feel like that's what he was saying. So we're going to talk about all that in a different video. Today we're just going to talk about, am I hate reading? In the next video we're going to say, and if I was, what about it? So some folks in my comments do think that that's all I do here. And people think that, sometimes people think that I'm like morally bankrupt because of this incorrect perception that they have of me and of what I do here. And I think that that's, again, because they assign negative moral value to the idea of negative reviews, but especially if I read something that I thought beforehand was not going to be my cup of tea. So even if I was just reading things that I hate here for money, which I know as the person creating all of the content by myself on this channel that that's not what I do here. I have yet to be convinced that even if that's what I was doing, that it's morally corrupt to do so. But that's, again, a separate video. So we have a lot to get into today. If you've ever like wondered what it looks like on my end to be a bookish YouTuber as a full-time job, Here's your chance to find out. I did take some questions and I'll answer them towards the end, but if you have more, you can leave them down below and I'll try to answer them. I think part of the problem here is that there is a disconnect and people don't really understand what my work looks like from my POV. So let me try to demystify that. How am I choosing which books I read? Am I just reading popular stuff? Am I just reading popular stuff because I think I'll hate it, so I'm hate reading on purpose? Answering these questions means I get to show you my analytics and how YouTube talks to content creators and about content creation. So how do I pick what I read? Let's answer that question first. How I'm picking depends on the book and depends on like what I'm doing that month. Keep in mind that I will never be able to have a dedicated video for every single thing I read. I read about 100 books a year. I recently did a recent reads wrap up because I feel like if I don't have enough to say, then I typically don't do a dedicated video. I also don't, for some reason, like doing short form content. Some of what I pick up is random and some of what I pick up is on purpose. Quite a chunk of what I'm picking up is because my Therapy Bills patrons choose books for me to read. Some of them, they think I'll like the book, so I just filmed a video where a patron had commissioned me to read Luck in the Shadows. Others of them, they hated the book, so they wanted me to read it and give me their thoughts. Some of what I read are audience suggestions. For instance, Powerless was a recent one that was suggested to me over and over by my audience. So people kept asking, and then after I reviewed it, I asked, do you want me to review the sequel? A lot of people said yes, so I did pick up the sequel. Some things I pick up out of sheer curiosity and a little bit of FOMO. Some I pick up simply because publishers have given me advanced reader copy access. They'll email me and say, hey, I think you'll like this book. On a similar note, some of what I read recently was because I joined Libro FM's advanced listener copy program, which if you're not a part of and you are a reviewer, you should try to sign up because it is so great. And some I pick up absolutely on purpose because I want to discuss book banning. That is something I'm really passionate about, is trying to advocate against and fight against book banning. Let's just go through some recent videos and I can tell you which books were which. I feel like that's the easiest if we're going to be like fully transparent on how I picked like more recent stuff that I read. The last thing that I posted was a review of Stoneheart, which I reviewed because I needed something quick to read.
Hello, just for transparency, I also forgot to add in here that part of how I choose like what I'm going to do videos on and stuff is I sometimes have to guarantee with sponsors that I will get a certain view count. Or otherwise I don't get paid or like I have to do another video for them, which is like an excessive amount of extra work. So I have to try to make a video about something that I know will get views because I promised a sponsor that I would do that. And some people won't sign contracts with me or like even pick me up to do sponsorships with if I don't guarantee 40,000 to 50,000 views. Normally it's not that high. Normally it's 25,000 if it's that at all. But 40 to 50,000 is a very high view count. It's very hard to do that. And I don't get that without a rant review, or at least something that looks like one. So just for transparency, that is also something that I have to balance in my work, is I have to, if I agree to do a sponsorship with a view count guarantee, that I'm promising I'll get that many views. And it's a gamble either way. I've never failed, but I might. Sorry, just one more thing. Another thing is that I still want certain sponsors to pick me back up. I really like working with Raycon and Skillshare and Factor and Balesa. So part of what I do here is I try to make sure that the videos, even if they don't have a view count guarantee, that they do perform well. So I do have to find a topic to talk about that will perform well. But sometimes I don't have a ton of time to read an entire like very popular book. So I try to read a novella every once in a while to get enough views, but still not take like an 8-hour book, which will then turn into like a 10-hour scripting, filming, editing process. So a novella can shorten my work time down while still performing well. Just for transparency, that's sometimes what I have to do here. And that's often how I pick, or why I pick novellas. How I pick the novellas is normally by asking my friends for a recommendation.
And I asked my friend Natalie from Weirdo Book Club for recommendations of short books, and she recommended Stoneheart. And I thought I would like it because I thought I would like like it more. I typically give Katie Robert books about a 3, so I thought, oh, this one's sapphic, and my friend liked it, Natalie liked it, she gave it a 4, so I think that this will probably be a 3.5 at least for me, and unfortunately I didn't like it. So I went into that thinking I would like it, didn't like it. Before that, Iron Flame Part 2, no, I don't like it, but I read those because I'm going in depth and doing in-depth reviews. Under One Roof was the one before that, and it's the same, it's actually the exact same thing as with Katie Robert. I needed something short to read. I picked that up. I typically give Allie Hazelwood a 2.5 to a 3. I was just trying to see if I would like that one. A couple other mutuals of mine who I sometimes, not always, have the taste of the same taste of, liked it, so I tried it, and unfortunately it was super not for me. That one I disliked way more than I didn't like the Katie Robert one because it was just too fast and had insta-love. Allie Hazelwood was just, it was just ridiculous. The video before that is called Do I Regret Reading These? And that had a bunch of reviews in it. I want to say at least 4 books in there. 2 of them were very highly rated, like a 4.5 and a 5, and then the other 2 were a 3.5 and a 4 maybe. So that's just all basically positive reviews sort of condensed into one 30-minute video. I just didn't have enough to say on their own. Why I read them, The Hunger in the Dusk and the graphic novel, the other graphic novel I read in there is Becoming Who We Are, which is a middle grade book explaining to kids like, oh, these, trans folks, here's, who they were when they were kids. I picked up both The Hunger in the Dusk and Becoming Who We Are at my local indie bookstore, Tombolo. Shout out Tombolo. So I was just really excited about those. Both the other books that I read in that video were Blood at the Root and The Berry Pickers, which I enjoyed, but they kind of broke my heart and made me like reflective and a little sad. And I read both of those because both of them came with advanced listener copies from Libro FM. Before that was Sons of Mayhem, which was a terrible biker book, and this was specifically requested by my patron Harley for me to read. Otherwise, I probably never would have known that book existed. Before that, it was There Is No Ethan, which is a nonfiction book, and this was another one that I got through Libro FM that I never would have known had existed if I hadn't gotten an advanced listener copy. Before that was a video I did on 3 weird books, and all 3 of them were Therapy Bill's patron requests. It was Vita Nostra, Our Wives Under the Sea, and the Aosawa Murders. And to some degree, I liked all of them, although Our Wives Under the Sea was my favorite. I'm not sure how quickly I would have picked up any of these had they not been patron picks. Before that was The Dare by Harley LaRue. I picked it up because, again, I wanted something short to read. And so I asked Natalie again, and we just kind of go through, and then I read this instead of reading a Lauren Beale book because this was so disgusting. I just found it so inappropriate, the way that it talked about SA, that I stopped reading it and decided to start reading The Dare instead. And I gave The Dare a 4. So I needed a short book and decided to pick up like a book talk smut favorite, and that one worked for me. Before that, I read Butcher and Blackbird. That was because it is popular and I wanted to know if I liked it. I did not. I thought I would at least be middle of the road about it because I heard some good things. I hated it. Powerless was a audience request. I didn't think that I would like it very much, but I can go into anything and think, maybe I'll take something good away from this. But everything that I didn't like about Red Queen was in here except worse. Before that was An Elderly Lady Must Not Be Crossed, which was a sequel short story collection to the first book, which both of these I read because they were a Therapy Bill's patron pick. And I like those. I give them like a 4. Before that, All the Sinners Bleed. 5 stars. One of the best books I read this year. One of the best books of all time, honestly. Also a patron pick. Before that, Slaughterhouse-Five, which is a book that I read a while ago and I wanted to talk about in the context of it being banned over and over, just throughout the years, even while Kurt Vonnegut was still alive. And recently, Moms for Liberty here in my state of Florida has tried to get it removed from school districts. Before that, I read 3 of the Amazon short stories. 1 of them I hated, 2 of them I gave 4.5 to. Those were some of the best books I read this year. Before that, I read 2 graphic novels, which I think I gave like 3.5 to, or 3.5, or I think I gave War Bears was definitely like a 3.5. This one I also read in that and talked about in that video, and I'm going to be talking about it again because it turns out that the resident county book banner in Clay County, Florida tried to get this banned. And this is a true story, and the authors told him that he is as bad as the people who in South Korea were, making it illegal to own books. So that one I enjoyed. Before that, I talked about one of my favorite books. Me and my husband shared favorite books, An Ember in the Ashes. We were gearing up to do a reread, or he was already in the middle of it. I'm on the fourth book now because the new book in the continuation series comes out next month. We are going to go see Saba Tahir and get our sign in person. I'm very excited. I read Immortal Longings before that. This is the last one I'm going to talk about. I read Immortal Longings before that, and that was because I saw it talked about on Book Talk nonstop. And so I was like, all right, let me try it, and I gave it a 4. So that kind of gives you an idea of like how I picked recent things and why. Now, the majority of those are actually positive videos. I hate using the term positive and negative. However, I know for a fact that most of people have not seen the positive videos as much as people see the rants of like Powerless is doing an incredibly high amount of views. And how do I know this for sure? Is because YouTube tells me. But it also creates these like slideshows for me in the Creator app, showing me how I'm performing in the algorithm, showing me like what the audience like is telling YouTube without saying anything at all. Please keep in mind I have zero control over the algorithm. I can only control what content I make. So here's what YouTube tells me about my performances in the algorithm and how my audience responds when I make certain kind of content over the others. And keep in mind also that they are telling me this in order to incentivize me to make well-performing videos, which are typically rant reviews. So here's an example of a slideshow. YouTube does one that does like a weekly wrap-up, a monthly wrap-up. So it tells me where most people find my content. It tells me like when people sign in, the homepage is the first thing that they see. What would make a new viewer choose one of your new videos? These videos were found most on the homepage. Roughing the Princess, that's over 100,000 views. Gothicana, over 100,000 views. Why I Gave Assistant to the Villain 1 star, I think that's at 100,000 views. The Up Next offers content related to the video that's already playing. Keep viewers watching by creating a series of related videos. Here's the top videos leading viewers to more of your content. Again, Gothicana, Roughing the Princess, Assistant to the Villain. So it keeps people in this cycle of like watching the same kind of content. Your channel page shows views driven from your YouTube page. Optimize your channel layout by adding a trailer, playlist, and featured sections. So now they're telling me that I need to optimize my page in order to make people watch more of my content. These were found most on your channel page. Fourth Wing rant for 5 hours. Again, Assistant to the Villain and Gothicana. I'm interested to do this again next year and see, like, compare what videos are causing this, like, in 6 months to a year. Because Gothicana and Assistant to the Villain was just in the last few months. I wonder what it was 6 months ago. And then it says, watch for more details on YouTube search and discovery, and it hands me a video on how to optimize the algorithm to maintain more views. Then it gives me another slideshow, and it says recommendations, as in YouTube recommending books to you, not to me. I mean, to me when I'm a viewer, not as a content creator. Recommendations are based on a few different things, and your audience is the main force behind them. So you guys are deciding what your YouTube looks like. Let's take a closer look. They show me videos that you guys are watching in comparison to mine. So it puts mine in the middle, and it says which one grabs your attention first, essentially. My best friend's on here, Natalie. Cindy's on here. Myona's on here. Carrie Can Read is on here. I don't recognize the other folks. But yeah, basically they put me next to my peers and they're like, do your thumbnails stand out as much as their well-performing thumbnails? And I'm like, I don't know. Damn, why are you making us compete? Do people choose your videos? Every 100 times your thumbnails are shown, viewers chose them 5 times. And then it says, like, in context, many popular videos are chosen up to 10 times in the first day. So it's telling me that my, like, choosing my thumbnails is a little low. So I guess that's probably trying to tell me that my thumbnails aren't good, but like, okay, YouTube, I guess if you had feedback, let me know. Do I look like a graphic designer? Graphic design is not my passion. Sleeping is. And then it says, do your videos keep people watching? Your 50-minute videos, people are typically watching for 18 minutes, and many popular 50-minute videos people are watching for 18 minutes and 20 seconds. So I'm about at the normal average. Do people enjoy your videos? People are shown more of what they like, share, and respond positively to in YouTube surveys. So if videos are getting liked more, shared more, commented on, and if you're responding to YouTube surveys while you're watching videos, that's going to get pushed more into your feed and into other people's feeds. Don't forget how people are influenced by topic interest. Are you choosing a popular or unique topic? Competition. Are there other videos on the topic they could watch? Seasonality. Can you change content to match different interests during the year? So it's telling me, make sure to talk about popular things, and if you're doing it you need to be doing it better than somebody else. And again, it hands me another video created by like the YouTube people. Learn more from an expert on YouTube recommendations. So I'm going to show you a screen grab of my analytics. So here's what it looks like. To me, like it has those little things where it says, you know, here's your July wrap up, and that's all those slideshows I just showed you. It also tells me like exactly how popular certain content is over the other. Now, I want to explain something else about how, before I get into like anything else, I want to explain that a video can do 28,000 views and I can make barely any money off of it if YouTube limits my ads. So for instance, I read Unhinged, the Spicy Door book, and I didn't hate it, but because I talked about sex toys in this video, YouTube demonetized it essentially. Now, ads are limited, which means that the only money I can make off of is YouTube Premium. So I have made $28, and that's entirely off of YouTube Premium. So if you have YouTube Premium and you watch the video, then I make a little bit of money off of that. Most people do not have YouTube Premium, so I don't make a ton of money off of YouTube Premium. If you look at a similar length video that did a similar amount of views, so let's look at Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which is a little bit shorter of a video actually, so even less running time, but has almost the exact same amount of viewership and did not get ads limited. I made almost $100 off that video. And you can see where you made money, watch page ads, and then YouTube Premium is like 20%. So it incentivizes me to try to not say certain things, otherwise you're barely gonna make money, in comparison to videos where you are, you know, obeying the overlord's stupid little rules about not talking about sex toys. My bad for being sex positive, I guess. But the other thing about that is both of those thumbnails, if you look at them, they look negative. So I'm bound to make more money off negative. I'm bound to make more money off of them as opposed to some of these other videos I've talked about in this, you know, last however 27 minutes I've been doing this. Some of them never come up in the algorithm and barely make any money at all, even if they aren't on limited ads, because YouTube isn't pushing them for all the reasons that I showed you in the, you know, scroll through like, hey, look at, you know, here's how we push videos to people. So that's how I'm choosing my books, and how I'm choosing like how to make content, and a little bit about what happens to me when I make certain content over others. I hope that kind of clears some things up. If you have any further questions on that, let me know. Moving on to the next thing. Am I just reading popular books, especially ones that took off due to book talk? I am reading popular books, but not because I'm like, oh, an opportunity for me to hate something and, you know, make things up that I didn't like. I think the only books that I've read recently, despite genuinely knowing that I probably won't like a single thing about them, because I can always find something. I can almost always find something. I knew that I would probably hate the Colleen Hoover books, and Roughing the Princess I assumed would have nothing good to say, and it didn't. But I usually can find something I like in almost any book, and I do point it out where I find it. So many of my 1-star reviews do have me saying things like this, like, I don't like this book overall, however, this small part of it I do think was well done, or I thought this line was funny, etc. I just always prioritize giving my honest thoughts. That's like my number one thing, is just be honest. Something else to keep in mind is books get popular and people who don't want to read them still want to hear what's in them. I provide content that allows for people who want to hear what's inside of these books without reading them can watch. Sometimes I like them and sometimes I don't. Sometimes even if I don't like them, my review will convince people who were on the fence about them to pick them up, because their taste and my taste might not be the same, which I'm glad. If your favorite book is Zodiac Academy, I am happy for you. I am genuinely, I need to have a more upbeat face when I say this. I am genuinely happy for you. Like that is no skin off my back. If you hate my favorite book and think I have shit taste, it is no skin off my back. I am just glad that both of us are reading. At the end of the day, I am happy that you have a favorite book at all, that you read something is a good thing to me. Like, that's a win. I do not gain anything if you hate a book. I also don't gain anything if you like a book. I mean, unless you and I like, you know, want to gush about it together, that's a gain. But I don't gain anything if you hate my favorite, and I just want you to read. Maybe that's very mom of me, but like my kid, right? I have so many books that I want to share with him, and I'm a little frustrated that he doesn't want me to read my favorites. However, when he goes into a bookstore and picks something up, I don't care if I have zero interest in it, or even if he ever picked up something I hated, I don't care. I just want him to read. I just don't think that there's any, like, the same way that I want people to allow me to read critically, I want you to keep up the not reading critically if that is what gets you to read it all. Just keep going. Another reason I pick up a book is because of FOMO. I'm curious. Somebody else will say something about it, and I'll want to know if I'll experience something the exact same way that they did, for better or for worse. It gives me a chance to be a part of conversation. When I read something and dislike it, this is not a loss for me because then I can talk about it with somebody who loved it or hear about their POV, and I get to experience it all over again through their eyes, even if I still don't feel that way myself. Examining how I experienced it versus they did, and how we both came to different conclusions, how we have different feelings, like why that is, what's that rooted in. Examining that is fun for me. Each book I have ever read has taught me something, even if it was awful, and it might just be that it taught me that I dislike a certain trope, and I still think that that's valuable. It enables me to go into my next review of a book that I do like and say, I like this, and in comparison, this was not good. Recently, Carlos and I got Mexican seafood from a new food truck. We really like supporting local places, and our favorite food truck, which is Puerto Rican food, my husband's Puerto Rican, has moved away, which is really sad. So we've been trying new ones. We tried this Mexican seafood truck. We said, this is really good food, but the rice here is not as good. It seems like it's just minute rice, whereas we are very much missing the Puerto Rican arroz con gandules with the tostones and everything that came with sabor. And like the food's good. Like, don't get me wrong, the crab soup is spicy and it's fucking delicious, but the rice kind of sucks. Even though I can say like I like certain things about both, I do have a favorite. This one, the rice is really not good, and this one, the rice is God tier. So having tried both and been disappointed in one element, I'm able to make comparisons now. Like I find value in that, and I do the same in books, and I think that that's a good thing. It just makes me more thorough of a reviewer, and I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. Like I feel like I've done a good job if I'm as thorough as possible. Regardless, I did go through, just to be thorough and transparent, of all the popular books that I've read and then made dedicated reviews for over the last 2 years. Here is what they are, why I read them, and what I rated them. The average might surprise you, and keep in mind, I actually undersold my ratings because I rounded down instead of doing half and quarter stars up, even though I usually rate with those here. So technically the average should be higher, but whatever. All right, so I already talked about Butcher and Blackbird, Powerless, Immortal Longings. Going further back, Assistant to the Villain, I actually was sent the book by somebody who bought it off my wish list, and I put it on my wish list because I thought I was going to like it. Somebody had mentioned that there was a little frog that held up signs and was goofy, and I thought that this would be like a magical animal companion situation, which is one of my favorite things. It was not. I actually texted a friend and I was like, so you read Assistant to the Villain, am I gonna hate it? She was right. Gothicana, I read because it got talked about on Book Talk, so I did want to try it. I did know that it was not good. I just didn't realize the depth of how bad it was gonna be. Again, I think that this was one of those cases where I'm going and thinking like, I could find one thing that I like about this. I don't think that book had a single redeeming quality. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I am trying with Ali Hazelwood. Like I feel like she does such a variety. There has to be something she's going to write that I'll like. Bride, I liked more than I thought I would. I thought that I would hate it because I don't think that like werewolf romance is for me, but I gave it a 3. It was fine. Serpent in the Wings of Night. I think I thought I would like it more than I did. It just went on so long, and for what? And it didn't make a lot of sense. November 9, I assumed would not have anything redeeming in it, but I'm genuinely curious. Colleen is so popular. She's everywhere. She outsold the Bible one year. Like I want to know. I'm curious. That was a 1 star. Fourth Wing. I said this before. I thought it was gonna be better than it was. I thought I would give it at least a 3. 1 star. Iron Flame, I knew I was likely not going to like though. So I am going those deep diving, but I think that like curious enough to see where it goes. And again, this is a book where I point out when I think it does something right. Like, I think it has like some things that, unlike Gothicana, I'm like, well, at least that's cool. Ugly Love, again, Colleen Hoover. Yeah, I assume I'm not gonna like him, but I want to know what happens anyway. 1 star. Check and Mate, another Ali Hazelwood. 3 stars. Desperate Measures is a Katie Robert book, 3 stars. Elantris is a Brandon Sanderson book. I was asked to read this, 3 stars. The Never King. It's a Book Talk popular book. I heard it was a spicy Peter Pan. That's all I knew. My friend Allison loves that series, but we sometimes have very strong the same taste and then very strongly do not. This is a case where we strongly do not have the same taste. I didn't know what I was gonna think going into it. I just went in. 1 star. Shit. This is a Wednesday Books book that I gave 5 stars to last year, and it was very popular on Book Talk. Before that, Ballad of Never After and Legendary were the most recent I did that. Those are all in the Caraval universe. I am endlessly curious if that will ever get better, and every single time it does not. Neon Gods, 3 stars, just curiosity. They're really popular. I genuinely like Katie Robert. Like, I like the author. So far, I haven't rated anything above a 3 from Katie, but I think that eventually I will like something very deeply because I see those threads of like things that I really like, and something from Katie is going to be a 5 from me eventually. I feel it. Okay, so then I did an entire wrap up of the Cruel Prince trilogy. I gave the Cruel Prince a 3, the Wicked King a 5, and the Queen of Nothing a 2. I have very particular thoughts about how the Wicked King is just what a fucking delight of a romp. I maintain that Jude and Carden did not need to end up together. Ship of Magic, depending on what you're in on Book Talk, like the Live Ship Trader series, I gave books 1 and 2 a 4 star. I enjoy them. They're just very winded. Those are pretty well loved and popular. It depends on like what your definition of popular is. Aurora Rising, 1 star. Before I Fall was a request, 2 stars. Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart, 1 star. The Only Good Indians is pretty hyped in horror talk, 5 stars. The Name Bearer by Natalia Hernandez, 4 stars, easy. After by Anna Todd, another request, 1 star. The Butcher and the Wren, which was written by a very popular podcaster, 1 star. That was a request also. Belladonna, popular YA new adult fantasy, I gave a 3. Ready Player One, depends on what you consider popular, but Ready Player One was pretty popular. It got a movie. I gave it 1 star. Babel by R.F. Kuang, 5 stars. I'm Glad My Mom Died, 5 stars. Light Lark, 1 star. Captive Prince, 2 stars. Somebody recently asked me, you have to read the Guild series? And I was like, oh yeah. So here's the funny thing. I think Guild is genuinely one of the worst things that I have ever read. Really bad. And then the rest of that series, I gave 4 and 5 stars. I don't know how to explain this. I just think that they are trashy in a good way. I think they're just deliciously trashy. I just enjoy reading them. And I thought that I would go in and be like, these are all garbage. Every single one of these is garbage. And then I was like, why am I having a fun time? Why am I having fun? Why do I have no critical thoughts? My brain turned itself off. This is not a voluntary thing. And I'm just having a good time. I could never reread that first book because I don't think is a way for me to have a good time with the first book, but the rest of them, I like them, and I couldn't really articulate to you why, other than I think it had a good conversation about abuse and then I had some fun. I don't know. I think the sex scenes are like a little much, but like also not the worst ones that I've ever read. Like, I've read some truly terrible smut on here. So like I went into those fully thinking I would hate them, and then I didn't, other the first one aside. So yeah.
So I had a calculator do the math for me because I am allergic to doing math, but the average turned out to be 2.42. So we're gonna call it a 3. So pretty mid-range for me to like the popular books a little less than half the time. But I think the assumption is that it would be all of the time, and this would be closer to a 1 than it is, but it's about mid-range.
Am I reading popular books? Yes. Am I reading them thinking I'll hate them and I'll just make things up or find things I'll hate about them? No, I just find it. If there was nothing to find, then I would find nothing. The other question is, am I just hate reading? The way that's written, I feel, implies that there's a more worthy and valid reason to read a book than another. I think the perception is you read popular books that you think sound stupid and trite and go out of your way to complain about them. And that's just not what I'm doing here. And the person who knows best what I'm doing here is me. I am the creator of this channel doing all of the work behind it, I know very, very well what I'm doing here. My answer goes back to like what I was just saying. Personally, I could find something I like in any book. And if it's there, I'm gonna say so. Even if otherwise I find the book to be a 1-star book, I can most of the time, I'd say like 8 times out of 10, find something nice to say about it. You can list me a book down below if you want and say something nice about X, and I can genuinely say something nice about it, unless it's like, again, Gothicana. And 9 times out of 10, I probably already did it in my video review. My number 1 priority is telling my honest thoughts on what I'm reading so that other people can use those thoughts to inform themselves on whether or not they think that the book will be right for them. And that includes me saying, I couldn't stand this book. And they're like, that sounds perfect for me. My other priority is to entertain. Again, a lot of my audience is comprised of folks who are just here to listen to something while they do art, or to wash their dishes, or they have a long commute to work, and they're just here to listen to me talk about books that they don't plan to read. Give my honest thoughts on them, and they're entertained by it somehow. I don't think I'm funny, so. And I think, in my opinion, that is a valid form of content and entertainment. I mean, I do that with video reviews of some of my favorite things to watch are long dissections making fun of terrible Christian movies. Detailed explanations about how bad the new God's Not Dead movie is. So I feel like my content is like a sort of similar to that. So I understand why people are watching this because I'm doing a similar thing. And you know what? I'll watch them again and again. So am I just hate reading? No, not me personally. But what if I was? There are channels that I've seen that do that, and good for them. At least they're reading. I don't assign moral value onto why someone else read a book, but a huge chunk of the book community seems to. So I'm going to discuss that again in an upcoming video. I plan to have that up next week. Let me answer some questions about my job to finish this off that I think are pertinent to this conversation in particular, but I'm also going to do a follow-up Q&A video. So if I didn't answer, if you saw my post asking for questions and I didn't answer them, I'm going to answer them in the Q&A video. You can also leave them down below. How do you find time to read books you want to read? These days I hear so many creators say, if I'm not making a video around it, I have no time for it, and that sounds so sad. I think I showcased here that that's not really what I'm doing here. A lot of like my favorite books were either like Libro FM, advanced listener copies, graphic novels that I found at my local bookstore, or patron commissions like, or Therapy Bills commissions in particular. Like All the Sinners Bleed was a request from a Therapy Bills patron. So I'm always reading something I like. And I am reading multiple things at once all the time. I typically have like 5 books going on at once. So I have to balance out if one book, like for instance, reading Reckless is a slog. It's going to feel real cathartic to get out all my thoughts on it. But reading it, because it's so long, it's a slog. However, I'm balancing that out by reading a couple other things that I'm enjoying. So like Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb, so far I'm enjoying. I'm also reading The North Wind, which is, I'm having a similar experience with this as I did with Guild, where I'm just like, my brain's off and I'm having a good time. Also a romantasy. And I'm reading a couple graphic novels. So like I'm usually always reading more things that I'm liking than I'm not liking. It's just the thing that's going to end up getting me views is the one thing I'm reading out of the 5 that I'm not liking. Do you feel pressured to read books just because they happen to be popular on BookTube Book Talk? Do I feel pressured? No. Do I feel curiosity? Yes. So I'm going to read them.
I feel like I missed a piece here that I should have talked about. So again, like I talked about earlier in one of these little edit snippets, I do have to pair videos with sponsors sometimes, and sometimes I have to guarantee view counts. So I don't feel pressure, but I do feel like I need to make something that I know will get views. So I do pair it with something that everybody's talking about so that I will get views. But I don't feel pressure to read like a particular book itself. It's more about curiosity. But I do have to, again, pair a like particular sponsor with something that will perform well so that there will be more eyes on it, so that more people will be interested in like hearing about my sponsorship with Raycon, the headphones, or hearing about a sponsorship with Skillshare. So I have to kind of like navigate what is popular and how to put that into a sponsorship capacity. So I don't feel pressure to read particular books. No, I do feel pressure to perform well when I'm working with a sponsor so that I can continue to do the best I can do at this job.
Especially if somebody I know and really like the reviews of also reads it. I really want to watch their opinion on it, but I'm not going to watch it until after I read it so that I can go into their review with the full context. How much reading in a month do you have to do to make it a viable job/money income? You could probably try to make videos about the same books you have read before in different permutations, but newer book content is probably what attracts more attention, I assume. It is. And again, going back over that, like that slideshow that YouTube sends me, it tells me like, make sure your content is what other people are talking about already. And you know, yours is better than the other people making content about it currently. So like newer stuff definitely gets more views. I could have gotten a lot of views if I had read and finished It Ends With Us a month ago. And now, you know, the amount of views will probably suffer for me not having done that in like a quicker turnaround time. But I just didn't prioritize it because the thought of reading another Colleen Hoover was just not in the cards for this month. I do, though, what you mentioned, like talk about books that I've read before. I did like take down old content and repurpose it into new content a few times over the last year. But as far as how much do you have to read in a month to make it really depends on how many views you're getting, how many subscribers you had. My videos, many of them are sponsored, so like I'm able to make a decent income from this because I also get sponsorships on top of it. So how much really depends on like a ton of other variables. I don't know how many books I'm reading in a month right now. I used to be really good at staying on top of that, having a fixed TBR and be done with it by the 30th, but that went away like 3 years ago when barely anybody was watching me anyway. I don't know. It just depends on a lot of variables. All I can tell you is that in order to get like a good amount of views, I have to read like at least one big book, like a big book talk book a month in order to make like a good amount of money. I used to do a lot of authors behaving badly on here, and I just the amount of time it takes to script those and do research for them is so, I just resent it. So I haven't been doing lately purely out of resentment for not wanting to spend a bunch of time scrolling through and figuring out what happened and who said what. And I'm just like, this is so much. And I have to make so many screenshots and organize all of them. So yeah, you have to have like one hit video a month in my case. I have to have like one hit video a month to do everything I need to do, pay my bills that this job now I rely upon for. What's the culture around reading for fun versus reading for work in the booktube/book talk communities? Again, there's a lot of like moral shit and like arguments around ethics pressed onto that. I do think that if you are doing this for fun versus doing it for work, I think it's fine either way in my opinion, but a lot of people like assign a negative moral value to doing this for money. This feels like an oddly personal question, so I'm sorry, but do you make the majority of your income through YouTube or other avenues like beta reading? Also, how long have you been doing this? What's your origin story? Thanks. Love your content so much. Thank you. That's so nice. How long have I been doing this? I've been doing this since 2019. My older videos were literally, I was holding my baby. They're private now because I don't put my kids' faces on the internet anymore. But yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years, but I've only been getting paid for, I guess, 2. It's been a full-time job for 2 years now. Before that, I made like a little bit of money, and then I hit that Alex Astor video, and if we're being transparent, I made $1,000 in 1 month. And then I was like, oh, I could make this a job. And then I worked my ass off and now it's a full-time job. Do I make the majority of my income through YouTube or other avenues like beta reading? I don't take on like commissions anymore. I got swamped. It took me forever to catch up and I just stopped taking them on. I would like to go back to taking on beta reads. I have those closed as well, but it just, I feel like I don't get the feedback to them like quickly enough. So I felt so badly about how long it took me to get my last feedback that now I'm like, I don't want to take too long. I get very anxious about it. I'm not really doing any beta reads right now. The last one was several months back. I would only take them on for people that I've done them for before. So I've actually in the last year, I've done secondary beta reads for people that I've already done a beta read for their work, so we're going through again. So those were like my last 3, I think, that I did, and now I'm taking a break, and then I'll revisit that idea next year. So I'm not making any money off beta reads right now, and I haven't in months and months. So the majority of my income is from YouTube ad revenue and sponsorships. I don't make any money off of Instagram. I don't make any money off of TikTok. I don't make any money off of commissions right now, and and Patreon. So I'm making about as much in Patreon as I am in YouTube ad revenue. This is a good question, but I'm going to answer the majority of these in the Q&A. I just wanted to answer this one. What's one thing you could change about your job if you could? I just wish I had more time to do all the things I want to do. I wish I just had more time. I wish I could read every single book. I wish that I could get the content out quicker. I wish that I had more time. I used to do a lot of like commissions for like indie authors would commission me to read their book, and I found some of my favorites. I also found some ones I really didn't like. And most of them were like really good sports about it when I didn't like it. I mean, I made it known, like, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to like say if I don't like the book, and you are commissioning me knowing that, like, you have to know that going in, like, very clearly it stated that. But I was able to find some of my absolute favorites, and then I was able to share those with my audience, and some of those books were like other bigger booktubers ended up reading them and growing the audience of these books. And I thought that that was so amazing that like the booktube community was able to encourage people to read a self-published author. And I wish that I could read every book that gets sent to me. I wish that I could not sleep so that I could work more to do that, to like, you know, find the next like book that I think is like incredibly like well written and something really truly unique and beautiful, and like get those out to the masses. I wish I could do that more. And I also wish I could change the algorithm so that my rant reviews do just as well as my positive reviews, because like YouTube again encourage you to talk about current and trending topics, shows you when those are doing well. And I just wish I could like say I really loved this book, and YouTube be like, congratulations, 100,000 views, now a bunch of people are reading it, and now we're all in a group chat talking about it together. Like, I think that would be so fun. I wish that I could. It's very idealistic, but that's what I wish I could change. Are there books that you would refuse to read or stop reading partway through even if you had been paid to do so? Is it hard to maintain those boundaries with content? Yeah. I have had to stop reading commissions and offer refunds because of all kinds of different stuff. Really bad mental health rep, pretty egregious anti-Semitism that I had to tell the author, like, don't ever do that again. Now I'm not taking on commissions from authors. The only books I get paid to read in particular from Therapy Bills patrons, they ask me to read a particular book and it cannot be their book. So we go in knowing like, hey, if I don't like this, I'm going to say so. And I've only had an issue once where a person was not happy that I didn't like the book that they chose because they liked it very much. So I do have to make boundaries with people like, hey, I have to be honest. Do you think of yourself as a comedian? And if so, do you worry that being good at making us laugh will push you towards books that will be good for views but not good for just reading? Or are bad books funny to read? Bad books are funny to read. I'm having fun. I'm having fun screenshotting it and sending it to my husband and then being like, actually, I'm going to send this to all my friends. We're all going to laugh together. Teehee. Bad books are fun to read most of the time, unless they're really long, and then it gets to be a little bit of a slog. But again, I balance it off by reading several other things I super enjoy. What is the ratio of books you pick up because you want to read them versus books you read for engagement? Do you find you've leaned further one way or the other over the years? Most of the time, I'm reading more things because I want to just like read them, and I'll see if I make content or not. And then on the other side, I have things that are like commissioned, and then other things that are like, I'm reading this because it is a popular book that I want to know if I'm going to like it or not. Have I leaned one way or the other? I guess I just used to read like whatever the fuck before this was my job. And now it's everything's like very structured, but everything that I pick up, I a little bit want to read. Now, is it because I think I'm gonna love it? It depends, but everything that I pick up, I on some level want to read. Don't know if this makes sense, but did you ever feel self-conscious in your reviews, like you didn't have a right to say anything because of the quality of the reviewing in the beginning? I make reviews for fun, not as a job, and even then I feel so awkward about it because I'm not the best at putting thoughts into words. Absolutely. I feel very strongly that I'm not very good at this, especially when I'm talking about something that I like. But I just try to be honest about that and just be honest in general and be like, here is exactly what I thought of this book. And maybe there is somebody out there who that will resonate with. And it turns out there were a lot of people that it somehow resonated with. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful you guys are all here. How do you go about talking about books that weren't your thing but aren't bad books? It seems like a challenging situation to judge. It is. Again, it just goes to being very honest. I try to say when I think like, okay, this is just not my thing versus I think this is bad because. It's the same way you do with food. Is it a texture thing? So is it the way that the sentence is worded? Or is it just that there's a writing style here that doesn't work for me? Try to get really detail oriented about why you are feeling the way you are feeling. And then you'll be able to sort of like figure out, is this just not for me? or are there things in here that are just craft issues? And be honest when you don't know. Like that's really, I just try to be very honest about my feelings. And that's just, I just feel like that's the standard. Just be completely honest. So that's it. That is everything that I have to say. Am I just hate reading? No, it's a little complicated over here. And it's like I'm running a circus and I am playing all the parts and I'm the ringleader. So it's a little complicated over here, but I'm trying my best and I know what I'm doing, and I feel like I receive enough feedback that this is helpful for authors and for people who just need to be entertained, and also people who feel like a sense of solidarity because they're like, oh, I didn't like this book either, or oh, I liked this book so much. I feel like I receive enough feedback that I am doing something that is helpful to where I feel like I have accomplished what I set out to accomplish. So I hope this solves the question, but mostly I hope that we can use this as a lead into to talk about the morality and ethics of hate reading, which I'm very excited to get into. I got a lot of interesting feedback and I would like to dissect it, go over it together. So thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. Thanks again. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for making it so that this can be my job. Genuinely, best job I ever had, although the bar is low. To be honest, all of my jobs were kind of bullshit. Did you know I used to work on a farm? We don't have to talk about it. All right, see you next time. Bye.
And before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bells patrons. And those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Astrid, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's Trash for Japanese Mysteries and Thrillers, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, EK Casey, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, GalaxyBot, Jess, John E, Julie D, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Max B, Minby, Mommy Zami, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Peggy Lou, specifically Peggy Lou, I'm a creep who. Peggy, Rain, Reese, SJ, Sadwich Bree, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph B, 2 Orbit, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, Zorvictia, Chai Guy, and Biblio Bibuli Baby Dragon. I think I did it right this time. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you for being a friend. And before I go, I also have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons. Those are Alejandra. Alicia is reading that Ethan book and screaming, oh my God, Alicia, I know. It's so good. I know. Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe Lavender, Bookish Brainrot, Bookish by Jenna, Bree, Kate, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, CJ, Claire Online, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorian, Dorothea, Drive By Thinker, E.T. Cosgrove, Ebby, Emily A, Emma Kingsbane, hell yeah, I know that's a Furyborn reference now and I'm so happy. Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Ilianaka, J.M. Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Justice Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, that's a good one, Kat H, Catherine, Katie, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, Kitten, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Jesus, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Megan, Malara, Mentally Unwell, May, Molly, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nemeska, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca R, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Secoria, Saintbringer, Saki Alume, Samantha O, Sammy, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sisette, Sophie, Talia, Tiana, Trashcan Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.